If you mentioned diaspora development, people just laughed at you because effectively, we were not on the agenda. And what Afford did in the first few years was to do a lot of work on putting across what it was that Africans did through development. We knew in 1994 anecdotally that we sent a lot of money home, that we shared skills, that we lobbied on behalf of home, but nobody had kind of systematized it at all. And so we started to put that on the agenda. As I said, people were laughing at us when we said, look, there are huge amounts of money that go to Africa from the diaspora. And last year, that figure from the diaspora to Africa was $25 billion. That's the figure that goes through financial systems, so through Western Union or MoneyGram. It's probably as high as 40 billion if we include the monies that go through envelopes as people are going home. So the diaspora is a major stakeholder in Africa's development, and we probably shouldn't even be talking about funding because the monies that we send to Africa is more than the British government sends, more than the NGOs send, about 10 times more than the NGOs, or even 20 times more than the NGOs send. So we can finance most of the stuff that we're talking about ourselves, but it's how we do it. And Afford has been at the forefront of trying to put a lot of these issues on the agenda about the diaspora. We asked questions about why is it that we are ignored as development agents. Why is it if Sierra Leone is in crisis and NGOs are sending money to Sierra Leone and trying to deal with the crisis, or Sudan, they don't tap into the resources of Sudanese or Sierra Leoneans here and form partnerships? Why are we doing development in two parallel lines? We ask the government, given that we're doing development, why is it that we don't get any official money to help us do that work? We're taxpayers. I guess all of you pay taxes, I hope. And so we should, as any other development agency, if the impact of our work can be proved, why should we not get the resources? The International Development Fund and the Health Fund, and even the Defense Fund has been cut, are the only two budgets that have been kind of ring-fenced and are not being counted. In fact, the International Development Fund is growing. So why is it that we can't benefit from this money? So Afford has been trying to put a lot of these issues on the agenda. Our motto and mission statement is enhancing and expanding the contributions that Africans in the diaspora make to Africa's development. So we already accept that all of you here are doing what you're doing, and you're doing it in the best way that you can, but we also accept that alongside this ongoing work, there's huge ground for improvement in terms of having greater impact in terms of the work that we're doing. Secondly, bringing in different partnerships from government and others to support the work that we're doing, and also just coming up with more inventive and innovative ways to deliver what we're doing. So that's kind of what Afford has been doing. I'm here today in the context of the Africa UK project, and what I was going to give this talk about funding is that everything that we're doing, I think as Dr. Zed was saying earlier on, is an incremental process. It's better to think of these things as a process. And Afford, since '94, has been involved in a process to empower this sector, to make sure the things that we're doing are better. And part of that process, as I said initially, was mentioning that we were stakeholders and getting that laughter in response, and then having to do the work to prove that what we're doing is important. And so we started a dialogue with various institutions in this country, including DFID. And one of the things we wanted from them was that, as I said, they involved us in development, they provided money and recognized our unique and distinct contribution and provided money to support that. And we've been having this dialogue for a long time. And what has happened as a process of that dialogue is that three important things have happened over the last, since DFID was set up in '97. The first was that they recognized the diaspora formally as a stakeholder and established what they called a strategic grant agreement, which provided about £500,000 to support an organisation called Connections for Development. The second thing that they did was that they provided money to VSO to support about £3 million over 3 years to support a diaspora volunteering initiative. And VSO delivered that money, and that ran out last year. And then the third major thing that has happened is that they've established with Comic Relief a fund called the Common Ground Initiative, which provides 40 million over the next 5 years. It started last year, so perhaps over the next 4 years. DFID gave 20 million to that, and Comic Relief provided another 20 million matched fund. So 40 million is available for diaspora work in Africa and for the work of small NGOs. The reason they did that was because of a lot of the arguments that Afford and other organizations have made, that it's important to recognize the distinctiveness and the impact of the diaspora organizations, and also a lot of small NGOs have made the same arguments, that they were being ignored in various funding rounds. So they've now put in place a dedicated funding stream for small NGOs in the diaspora. Now the diaspora are quite, and this is only the African diaspora, not other diasporas. As African diaspora organizations, most of us, in fact all of us in this country, can also apply as a small NGO, because there is no African diaspora organization in this country that turns over more than £1 million, which is the definition of a small NGO. So we can apply as a small NGO and we can apply as a diaspora organization. White-led organizations that are doing work in Africa can only apply as a small NGO. Who earn turnover under £1 million can only apply as a small NGO. Now it's important to recognize that even though this money is available, it's 40 million, that the diaspora are still not, at the moment, benefiting from that money. Most of the money that has been given so far under the Common Ground Initiative has gone to small NGOs that are not diaspora. So even in this dedicated funding stream, we're still not benefiting. There are important questions about why we're not benefiting that we as diaspora organizations need to respond to, and which I will try and talk about today. So 2 things have happened over the last, let's say since DFID was set up, over the last 13, 14 years. First, they have listened to the arguments that we are an important stakeholder. They've responded in 3 big ways. They've established initially an organization called Connections for Development, which was to look at this whole area of diaspora and development. They provided money for diaspora volunteering, and then they also basically provided this Common Ground Initiative fund. So they do listen. But they also, even as they're listening, problems continue.